I've thought about making this video for years now. I don't know why it has been so heavy on my heart recently. I think it's just because a lot of things, in my opinion, have been enlightened to me in a way that I'm now putting words to things that I didn't realize before, I guess you could say. And a lot of this revelation has just come from looking around in the world and connecting some dots and listening to some new voices in the arena. This all sparked from the recent interview with Nick Fuentes and Piers Morgan, I want to say about a week ago, roughly speaking. I watched that interview 2 times, and it was embarrassing for Piers Morgan. You have a boomer trying to argue with a Gen Z, and the dynamic was ludicrous. Piers Morgan tried to censor and shame Nick Fuentes for his beliefs on a show named Uncensored, ironically. This started an uproar online, and there has been many dynamics in the last couple months that has caused fury in the social dynamic. Obviously, the Nick Fuentes interview with Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson, for that matter, did not help. Then you compound that with Erica Kirk and Candace Owens talking, and Candace Owens backing down off of her views. You have Trump, that in many regards is floundering in office. Things still suck for Americans. Americans still aren't put first. Everything is still too high cost-wise. We are still involved with financing different wars that aren't even ours, whether it be Ukraine, Israel, now this Honduras thing, never-ending wars, even though they said that they would stop the wars. That's not true. He just declassified marijuana. All of these things, Trump is the great disappointment, even though he was supposed to be the conservative savior, for lack of a better term. He is floundering, and his ratings are dropping aggressively because of that. And all of these dynamics have caused me to now land in a political, ideological portion where I agree with Nick Fuentes and the Gen Z groypers, and I would say the true conservatives left. Everything politically is compromised nowadays. The left obviously is evil. It is pro everything against tradition. It is pro abortion. It is pro gay. It is pro destroying our culture with different cultures invading us. But yet you have the Republicans that say they're going to fix all these things, and yet they don't. They fix it 5%. We need massive change. We need to restore our culture. We need America to be America again. And I think a lot of this stemmed throughout my entire adolescence and into adulthood, and I never just had the words to put to it. But after watching some of these recent events and some of Nick Fuentes' recent videos, I think I now have the verbiage. And it goes something like this. I am a Christian, I am white, I am straight, and I am a man. Those 4 dynamics have been simultaneously and systemically attacked for my entire life, what it feels like, minimum. And the system has been falling and declining, I would say, since World War II. In World War II, America was generally white. It was generally Christian, and there was a pride in nationalism. We had just won World War II. There was a pride in being American. There was pride in being Christian. And I know pride is a cardinal sin technically, but there was an honor. There was a respect. There was a reverence for a sacred country and all the freedoms that we had. And what happened, in my opinion, there are a couple things that broke down this system. Number one, I think society got apathetic. We got lazy. We got comfortable. We got fat. We got used to the freedoms and the comfort around us. And I think comfort actually is the root in a lot of this, because I think if you don't have to worry about survival, you can consider ideological slop. You can consider ideological questions that matter nothing to life. You can question your sexuality. You can toy with fascism and Marxism. You can do all these things because there is no stress. But yet, if you're worried about your next meal and whether you're going to eat or not, those ideas don't really happen. And so what happened is we were a successful country, we were a successful society, and we got comfortable. And we sat and we watched TV and we got lethargic. And what happened, as all corruption and evil does, is when the good gets lazy, evil comes in and starts to destroy everything. Now, what happened? In the 60s, the civil rights movement happened, which, according to different sources, and I don't really care enough to look into the history, but obviously there was the black culture that gained rights and gained freedom, and I'm not even necessarily against it if they actually played by the same rules. But what happened is they gained rights, they gained power in society, all these different things, and then there's a reverse racism dynamic now. Now we have to pay reparations for past sins. Now they can be racist towards us as white people because now they have their liberty and they have their freedom. Again, I'd be okay with all of this if everyone played by the same rules. But what has happened is the white, Christian, straight male is now the pinnacle of target from every direction. So the Black Civil Rights Movement. You also have a rise in a feminist movement. So now the feminine is gaining rights in jobs, is gaining rights in different regards. Voting. Technically, again, not against it overall. I think everyone deserves freedom, but I think we have to play by a certain set of rules. And the game is broken. So I'll get to that in a second. But so you have the feminist movement that gain rights, gain all of that. And then there is the sexual revolution of the 60s, 70s, free love, drugs, hallucinogenics, basically Romans 1, homosexuality, nasty, nasty stuff. And there's all of that. Then you go into the 80s, the 90s, and somewhere in there, I don't exactly remember when. I want to say it's maybe 60s. The dates don't really matter. Here's the fact of the matter. They pulled God out of school and they started indoctrinating the school system with woke ideology. And it started out subtle. It started out with evolution. It started out with racism. And then it built to sexual perversion, it built to sexual confusion, it ramped up over time. So when I was in school, the white man, the colonial, was evil because we came to America and we killed the Native Americans, and that whole narrative. And also, there was a whole month of curriculum devoted to the Black Civil Rights Movement and um, Black Pride Month and all this stuff. And then after me was the woke ideology. After me was the critical race theory. After me was the sexual confusion, the furries in school, the litter boxes in the bathrooms. It was the trans. It was all of that. Also, in my generation was, I would say, the last generation. I'm 29, millennial-ish, but I identify more with Gen Z if I use the liberal term of identify. Sorry if I offend you. But I was also the last generation of, if you had a problem, you would fight. But also, this was the generation of anti-bully. Anti-bully, anti-bully. And yet what happened is, bullying, I don't advocate for. But there is a fear of staying within the societal and social guardrails. If you come to school dressed up as a furry, you deserve to be made fun of because you are abnormal in society. That's not how society works. You're a human, not a cat. You don't use a litter box. You're a human. And so you should be bullied for that. If you fill in the blank, right? Now, obviously, I know bullying has some psychological, emotional, physical concerns and dangers, and I don't advocate for it technically, but when there's no bullying, all hell breaks loose. There's freaks in school. There's freaks in society. All of this kind of dissolved and kind of imploded on itself to where nowadays, when I went to school, I feel like you could send your kid to school and maybe there was a little bit of like, yeah, don't believe in the evolution. Nowadays, there's no way in hell I'm sending my kids to public school because they're not going to be indoctrinated in neo-Marxist woke ideology, chop off your penis, you can be a girl. DEI, critical race theory, all this crap. Compound that on the fact, going with the whole woke ideology, feminist mentality, you also had the Me Too movement in the 2000s. And basically what that meant is because of a few bad apples, the feminine mentality, the feminists, started to attack any idea of masculinity. They started canceling people in cancel culture. But it was always targeted towards men. Specifically, I would probably say, if I had to take a guess, towards white men. So, Christianity. Let's kind of switch gears to that. When I grew up, it was the 90s, 2000s, mega church, seeker friendly. You can show up to church in sweatpants and pajamas, and that was kind of okay, and they just wanted to get converts, basically. With very cultish nature, in my opinion. And the church lost reverence. The church lost its identity in being influenced by culture rather than influencing culture itself, if that makes sense. So the culture influenced the church didn't influence the culture. We would do things to be seeker friendly, like dress cool, and we would play secular music to try to bring people in and to make them feel comfortable. And it's sad. There should be a holy reverence for the church. Back in the biblical narrative in the Old Testament, you couldn't even get to the Holy of Holies. And yet we can be, in the new covenant, we can experience the presence of God, and yet we show up in pajamas. We show up with no respect, no reverence, no holiness. So let me just summarize real quick on what exactly I have been boiling with for a long time. What has all been stacked against the young Christian white straight male goes as follows. If you are white, you are racist. If you're a man, you're a misogynist. If you're a Christian, you're a bigot. If you're if you try to band together under the white male persona, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. And the breath of fresh air, the unspoken finally being spoken, is in Nick Fuentes. Now, I will say, I think he's a little unrefined in his speech. I don't do profanity on this channel, but he has that FU energy. He is unapologetic. He is unashamed. He speaks the truth. He calls out the conservatives. He calls out the liberals. He calls it all out. He calls out the group politics. I'm tired of white guilt. I'm tired of all of the crap. Growing up, when I went to college, I couldn't get scholarships because I was a white male and my family was relatively well off. When I sign up for different policies through the business that I work for now, in the documentation, or really any documentation nowadays, when it says ethnicity, most of the time nowadays with all this DEI stuff, there's not even white or Caucasian. It's just non-Hispanic. How about this? I'm white. And just as everyone else can brag about I'm black, I'm gay, I'm Haitian, I'm Mexican, you can boast about all of your different identities, but yet me being a Christian, me being white, me being a man, me being straight, I am the enemy. Nick Fuentes is the enemy. Being a white Christian nationalist is a slur. How about no? How about enough is enough? How about we actually band together as white Christian straight men? You want to know why we don't band together? Because number one, they cancel us before we can. And number two, we're too busy keeping the world afloat while everyone else takes the day off from work and goes and protests. We are the people that keep the world turning. And again, I have a Christian worldview. I don't mind if you are black or Mexican or whatever. If you actually are in America, number one, legally, let's just start there. And number two, if you actually appreciate, if you actually respect American culture. I'm tired of we can't be Christian, we can't do baseball, we can't do Christian hot dog culture. Everything has got to be, oh, it's Gay Pride Month. Oh, it's Black Pride Month. Oh, it's this Hispanic holiday. When it's, I don't know, Mexican Pride or Hispanic Pride or whatever the hell the holiday is, Chicago shuts down and it looks like Mexico. There are people driving around with Hispanic flags for a month. How about you live in America? If you're so proud of your culture, go back to it. But yet you want to capitalize on our benefits, on our tax codes, on our opportunity, our freedoms, and yet you hate our culture. You're a leech on the system. And I'm not saying anything against, I know there are some people, I know some great Mexicans, I know some great black people. But the lack of respect for America, the fact that Christian white men are the target. How about we change that narrative? How about Nick Fuentes is actually onto something and you stop trying to cancel him? Piers Morgan acting as if racist, misogynist, these titles are going to affect him. Yeah, we don't care. We're over it. Yet, are over it, we don't burn down cities like BLM. But yet, that was just peaceful protests when black people were burning down Chicago, were burning down the major cities. Why is it with every crime nowadays that it's a white male? The school shooters that get all the press. You know, if white people are shot, no big deal. But if a black person is shot, they burn down the cities. Same thing for all the different groups. Why are we letting in illegal immigrants, Haitians that were taking over Denver? Why are we soft on crime for these people that are released 15 times and then they stab a white girl in the neck? And some of these facts might be, I don't know, I don't do all this news stuff. I dressed up like Nick Fuentes because I was feeling a little spicy. Listen, I have a Christian worldview and I'm cool with a lot of different people. I don't mind if you're black or Mexican, which also, just a side note too, being racist is semantically retarded. We are one human race. We have different ethnicities and cultures. So fundamentally, that from the start is null and void. So I don't care what ethnicity you are. But in the same way that you're proud to be Mexican, you're proud to be Russian, you're proud to be French, you're proud to be... How about we're proud to be American? How about you fly that flag with some damn respect? People died for that. People died for your freedom, and we are disgracing this country. How about there's some reverence for God? This whole thing, this whole situation has gone off the tracks because we lost our fear for God. We took God out of the school systems. We took God out of marriage. We took God out of everything. And we just went into hedonistic, nihilistic, pagan culture. We let everyone in. We diluted. We desensitized ourselves. We let the whole thing go to crap. And yet people are shocked and afraid when young white Christian men are disenfranchised and we're pissed off. How about enough is enough? Thank you, Nick Fuentes. Thank you for finally standing up for us, because I'm tired of being the target. And all these people that are sympathizers for all these different things, I would like to see Piers Morgan go to the Austin neighborhood in Chicago. Yeah, he's in London. He's in the 97% white neighborhood. You're a hypocrite. You're an embarrassment. You're advocating as if you're slugging in the hood. No. You know just as well as everyone else, but you are bold-faced lying. It's embarrassing. How about we stop being apologetic for being white, for being Christian, for being straight. I'm not apologetic anymore. I'm white. I'm proud. Just like everyone else can be. Reverse racism is racism. How about that? How about our politics and our politicians actually fight for us? The saddest part about this whole thing is that Trump was supposed to be that person to finally flip the system. In 2016, he was the person that didn't care, that was actually going to do something, that was actually going to change, drain the swamp, make it better. Make America great again. You know what that means? How about we actually stop being reverse racist towards white men? How about white people get scholarships in college? How about white people get an actual chance with jobs? And yet you have to meet your DEI quotas and hire fill in the blank for your identity. What the hell is that about? How about competency? How about a Jordan Peterson competence hierarchy? If you're good at what you do, it doesn't matter what you are. But what you are, you better damn respect this country. How about you have some reverence for what we are? If you don't like America, get out. You pro-Palestine liberals, how about you go to Palestine? See what they do to you. See if their culture is better than ours. Your people, your celebrities that are fleeing the country because Trump got in. Get out. We don't want you. We don't care. And also, one last thing, since we have so had shame put on us, since we are so evil, I'm going to flip the script and put some shame on some other people. How about shame on all the boomers, all of the parents, all of the politicians that broke this system so that we don't have hope now? How am I supposed to buy a house? How am I supposed to start a family when I'm being crushed by inflation, when I'm being crushed by bills, when the minimum wage should be $66 and it's a sixth of that? Shame on you for breaking the system, for racking up the leverage in the national debt. You broke it. We got to fix it. And guess what? We will. But I'm tired of people putting guilt and shame on us. In the same way that the civil rights movement in the 1960s was all about black liberty and black rights, great, I get that. How about instead of you getting that position and then turning around and putting it all on the white people, how about it's just competence? How about we respect the country, we fear God, and it's competence, not DEI quotas? Unfortunately, and I'll end with this because this video is probably going to be canceled, and then I'll just go to Rumble like Nick Fuentes and keep on going because I'm tired of being tired of being tired. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of being pissed off. I couldn't figure it out for the longest time on why I was so pissed off all the time. And then it dawned on me. It's all the shame. It's all the guilt. It's the lack of hope in society. I was like, oh, it makes sense now. For 30 years, they've been doing this to me. They've been doing it to all of us. Millennials and Gen Z are the problem. We're the problem. We don't want to work. How about you look around at society and see inflation, housing prices, all this crap? There is no American dream. It's an American nightmare. The system is falling. And I think, unfortunately, there's going to be a couple different options, or all of them at the same time. We'll see what happens. Number one, we can revive the system that we have. That's best case scenario. And it's going to be a hell of a ride, because that means that we're going to have to actually kick the people out that don't love America. There needs to be an American culture. If you're white, brown, whatever, if you don't love America, if you love your home culture more, this ain't your home. Get out. And if you're here illegally, also get out. We don't need to dilute the culture and have our welfare system be maxed out and over leveraged because you're here illegally. Get out. Go home. We need to revive the system, which basically means completely overthrowing the current democracy, because the two-party system is broken. Republicans suck, Democrats suck, it all sucks. They're all corrupt. There needs to be actual, constitutional, America first, America loving politics. It's about us, the Americans. I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care about Iran. I don't care about Honduras. I don't care about fill in the blank. Stop sending our money to other countries. Revive the current system. And it's probably going to look a lot more like January 6th than people are comfortable with. That's best case scenario. But they turned January 6th into this terrible thing that the MAGA Trump fascist Nazis were taking over the Capitol. Maybe we're sick of it. Anyways, revive the system. That's number one. That's best case scenario. Number two, a mass segregation, splitting, secession of the country that we are in, potential civil war. And so basically what that means is like, okay, this melting pot society doesn't work. It doesn't. Rural and city are not the same. Rural America is white, Christian, America loving, nationalist. It's what rural America is. We live in the country. We listen to country music. We go to church on Sunday morning. We own guns. That's our culture. It's America, 80, 90% of America. And then you have these hubs of major cities that are all diverse, and there's no guns, and there's crime, and all this different stuff. And so basically, people vote with their feet, and you'll have a mass segregation, and you can already see it happening with people leaving California and going to Texas and Florida, all these different things. So there can be like a mass segregation and maybe a secession. I don't know. I mean, it's hard because each state has 2 or 3 hubs of major cities that dilute the whole populace. So how do you fix that? It's like trying to live with a bunch of tumors all over your body. You got to cut it out. Or, I don't know. So there could be like a mass segregation situation, which I don't know how logistically that would work. I mean, it could be like a civil war, but instead of for unity and to end slavery, it could be ideological civil war, and the traditionalist, nationalist American versus the woke ideology pro wickedness kind of fighting. I don't know. There's that. So we could revive the system. That's best case scenario. Worst, maybe not worst case scenario. Best case scenario, revive the system. Option 2 would be, like a segregation, civil war, secession. Option 3, which is pretty eminent, which Trump was supposed to fix, and he's botching the whole thing, is economic collapse. We have 39 trillion dollars in debt. We're over leveraged. The whole system is broken. There's a bubble, AI bubble, tech bubble, car bubble, housing market bubble. The whole thing is a bubble, and it's not just us, it's every world economy. And also, all of this stuff that I'm talking about, I'm American. So I'm talking about America, but there's a lot of other countries in the West that are experiencing the exact same thing at the exact same time. So this is not just America. This is like a ripple effect across all of the West. So there could be a economic collapse, which I don't know if that's like the Great Reset, one world currency, or not even. I mean, that's a little bit apocalyptic. I guess technically it would be more like we lose the world reserve as the American dollar, and maybe like Russia or China takes it because they're actually proud of of their country, of their culture, and they're nationalistic, and they're growing strong. Just saying. So there's like economic collapse. That's like number three. Number four, there's a good chance of World War III, which could be nuclear. It could just be, like all these different fronts that are currently happening right now: Ukraine and Russia, the Middle East, Israel, Gaza, blah blah blah. Us going with Honduras. China's been eyeing Taiwan forever. All these different aspects could just be. We could be in 1940, metaphorically speaking, of World War III. We could be 2 or 3 years into World War III and we're just getting like the murmurs and then it could like explode, if that makes sense. And all of these are possible, by the way. Um, and or I guess another one, which I'm not a big advocate for, but at a certain point, like when is enough enough? I guess because we could try to revive the system under the same United States of America Constitution, keeping the traditional everything. We could try to revive it, um, or we could just have a revolution and just start a new system because the system right now is broken. The two parties are corrupt. It's way over leveraged economically. Uh, the country itself, I feel like a good chunk of it doesn't even love itself. We are self hating, suicidal in ideology. We have people burning the American flag in America. So at a certain point, you say, just do a revolution. And there's a new flag. And if you don't fall under that flag, get out. I don't know what that looks like. And so this is the world that we live in now. And I was scared to talk about it forever. And I didn't even really have a full conception of my thoughts because I grew up conservative in the hope that, hey, maybe things will get better. And here's the fact of the matter: this is Trump's second term, and it's not getting better. Okay, 2% better. No, we need to fix the system. 2% isn't enough. If you're terminal, 2% isn't enough. And so Trump was supposed to be the savior, the conservative savior, and he's flopped. So there's that. But I was scared to talk about all this for a while, but now I'm just completely black-pilled. I'm Team America First, Team Nick Fuentes. Um, I don't really care anymore if this gets canceled. People don't like me. I'm over it. Yeah, I'm over it. I'm completely disenfranchised. When Andrew Tate was first canceled, I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But Andrew Tate is weird. Like I agree with some stuff and not others. I don't know. I don't like that he's Islam or Muslim or whatever. But I mean the systems and the matrix and all that is more based than you'd think. But then finally we had a figurehead of Nick Fuentes who is white, male, Christian. I'm like, okay, I'm team him. And I don't think he's perfect. I mean, no one is. But I mean, I'll take 90% nowadays. Because who else do we have? Who is advocating for us? So there's my rant. I've been boiling for like a week and a half straight because of it. It originally started with the Nick Fuentes and Morgan, not Morgan Freeman, Pierce Morgan. There we go, Pierce Morgan. Um, Started with that, and I've just kind of given up hope on the right and the red and the conservative, and because they're just as bad. They're all lobbied. They're all bought, and all of these people are morally corrupt. So, do we revive the current system? And it's a hell of a fight, and it's messy. Do we like segregate? Maybe civil war? I don't know. Do we? I think I said for the third one, go into World War III. Not great. Also, I don't know if our country could survive that. Do we have economic collapse? That's pretty imminent unless we change everything like now. Or do we just start a revolution? As a almost 30-year-old, those are the options laid out in front of me. I don't have an American dream. I don't have the get married, have kids, buy a house, normal, easy life. We've been long overdue for some strong men to stand up. And thank you, Nick Fuentes, for starting. Hopefully, I can follow in your shadow. Hopefully, one day we can talk. But I just needed to rant. Till next time.